So you're a Cornishman?
Well, sort of. I moved to sort of Bodmin Moor area when I was like 13.
Okay, so
From Sussex. So I was born in Sussex.
So you moved to Bodmin at 13. Wow, so that's
Well, Bodmin Moor.
Yeah.
So like sort of near Launceston, basically. So sort of on the edge of Bodmin Moor. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. My parents' dream was always to move. We always came on holiday to Cornwall, and they just wanted to live here. So
Wow.
it was hard for me because I was 13 and I didn't want to move and leave my friends and stuff. But the plus side, we got this amazing. We moved to a project, a house that needed doing up, which they never finished really. But we had a stream, and I guess I grew up on South Downs.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about this like the other day, like I so young, like just on my BMX riding up to the Downs, and I guess just loving that space, not without subconsciously maybe not knowing it at the time, but climbing up a hill, I love doing that. So, and then I guess so I've always been into the landscape, but moving to Cornwall just kind of sort of. It grew and grew from there. There's a sense of space everywhere there. So I guess it's always been, that is what I'm most into, the sense of space.
So you studied sculpture?
Yeah.
So were you always making sketches? Did you at some point when you were on your BMX or, graduated from that, if you ever do?
I was actually, I had an easel. I wanted an easel like from the age of 9 or something, and I took it. I remember going to a National Trust property, like what was it like? I can't remember what it was, but and like at the time of the Bluebells and painting with my easel, really young age.
That is unusual at 9, isn't it? An easel, yeah.
yeah. But I think it was always my identity from a really early age. Like I was good at other things, I guess, but nothing. I was not really bad, but art was like something that I was known as the guy who was good at art from a really early age at school. And then I went to secondary school, and I chose to go to Warden Park, this secondary school that all of my other friends weren't going to because it was good for art. And I remember there meeting new friends and becoming the person who was good at art. So, and then when we moved to Cornwall, I had to make new friends, and then that became my identity, like the guy who was good at art. So I guess it's always been
the guy who's good at art.
me. It gets a bit annoying sometimes because even now I'm introduced at parties like, this is all the artist, and also having work up in your house and stuff. I went through a period a couple of years ago where I couldn't escape myself. I just kept like, it was just me and art everywhere, and I just thought, is it just me and art my whole life?
Too much.
Surely there's something else to me as well, but I don't know if there is. Like maybe there is, but I ended up realizing that art is me. My art is me. I had a lot of encouragement from my mum. I do remember that lovely feeling when I brought home a painting, and my mum would just be like, "Oh, it's amazing!" Like to just, I'd crave that.
Yeah.
Accept it, that sort of appreciation. So I guess I did have support. I kind of enjoy making art, and it's given me the confidence to go, right, now I'm going to do that. Putting all of my eggs in one basket, just going for it to sell stuff.
So why did you choose sculpture, not painting, for your degree?
It was, it's weird. I think the concept was, how can I paint about space and distance and 3 dimensions if I don't know about 3 dimensions? And I'd never done any sculpture before until my foundation course. And the guy one of the tutors, Phil Booth. He is an artist still working in Cornwall now, I think. But he just said I'm a sculptor. Like, he just really thought that I was just amazing at it, and said go and do sculpture. So, and it was the best mark I got, and I was just really like wow, never. I always thought it was boring, and I did it, and it felt really good. And so in a way, I sort of went on a whim. Like I should have figured out that I was a painter and done a paint. I regret sometimes that I didn't do a painting degree. Still don't regret it really, because it did teach me a lot more about space. And I feel like I've got an added sort of
a string to your bow, isn't it?
yeah. And I came back from my sculpture course, it was all I just saw the landscape that I grew up with in such a sort of simplistic but euphoric way, I guess. Like, it was refreshing. I just was like, oh wow, you know. And my wife says the same thing. Like, she grew up near St Ives, and she didn't even, because there's a really amazing Tesco's there as the view across the bay.
Yeah.
And she didn't even notice that view growing up.
No,
she's like, what? I never knew that was there. And I think that's it with Cornwall a little bit. You're sort of so spoiled that when you come back, you see it in a different way. And then I liked the immediate. I remember the fun, the pure fun of making, the immediacy of making marks and painting, and it just went from there, I guess. But yeah.
So do you have like a daily routine? So I noticed that you don't paint in the studio, I don't think, do you?
No, but funnily enough, I have recently been putting on Instagram. I've been making these really come full circle. I've been like painting on card and then cutting it up and making some collages out of card, which was sort of funny, because I haven't done that in 20 odd years. But and I'm working purely in my workshop with nothing really much to look at, which is weird, because I've always been so regimented and passionate about plein air painting. But I think it's okay. I see that as more of an experiment, and I think sometimes in your work you just have to, you get the urge to do something different. So it might inform it, or it might lead to something else. But yeah, predominantly I'm plein air through and through. I mean, recently through lockdown, it's changed. It's kind of I painted in, well, not obviously, because I've spoken to some artists who have found lockdown really difficult and didn't do any work. But I was having a bit of a mental block and hadn't painted since November. Then my wife just said, "You just got to do it," and I was like, "Okay." And I did it, and then yeah, and then because we had loads of other stuff to do on the house as well. So I'm always doing stuff up in the house, and I thought, but I did obviously have shows that I have to do work for, so it was going to have to happen at some point. So and then I really got into these garden paintings, because in a way they're a bit more akin to studio painting, because for me, I think of studio painting as being just sort of sitting down with a cup of tea, and I sort of it as in a bit of a cop out in a way. Well, I don't think that anymore. I think that it's nice to have that space to reflect and think. But in the landscape you can do that, but I like it being in the landscape, because sometimes I don't want to think, so I like that spontaneity and the intuition that you have to rely on. I used to keep a sketchbook all the time, and used to be like documenting stuff, but that changed about 10 years ago, where I just found that I don't know how it changed, but I now what I do, and it's the pattern, is that I work intentionally for 2-week periods usually, and then have a break and see what I've got, and then wait for that kind of inspiration and that energy to come back.
So in that, so you actually consciously think, right, I'm going to do X, Y, or Z, and I'm going to give myself a couple of weeks every day. Is that every day, working on it every day?
Every day, yeah. Works, because I like it, because you see like this curve. You get a proper body of work where each piece relates to the next, and often at the start I will be quite I'll throw everything at one piece, and it will be really frustrating, and I'll get really cross with it, and then I'll overwork it, and then slowly as you get to the midsection, you kind of, you're on a roll, and then right at the end you're like, you can just bang them out, like they're all coming really naturally, and I just like that process. And
So
then I look.
what would be the idea you would start with at the beginning of the 2 weeks?
Well, I guess it starts with a place. I feel there's so many. We're still discovering places we've never been to in Cornwall, but I'll usually probably start at a place that is familiar, that I feel comfortable, and that is what's happened recently, actually. Before it was all about the distance and going to a place that I had a great view, whereas now it's still about that, but it's much equally as important for me to find a place where I feel that I can paint the best painting, right? So maybe a sense of bit more privacy as a result of lockdown, maybe. But having, working in the garden with my kids playing and in that amazing hot weather was just so lovely. I felt so relaxed, and although we're in this middle of a pandemic, for me, we were lucky because we've got a nice garden. So
yeah.
I took advantage of that, and so now taking that back out into the landscape, I'm not as concerned with the view. I'm more concerned with putting myself in a place where I feel the best, so I can paint best. So, which is interesting, I think. I mean, it was always about my emotions as well, but now that is the most important thing. It's just, as a result, the paintings have gone a bit more abstract because they're more just about me trying to create a painting in a place where I feel my best. So, I mean, I could be in I could go back into the studio if I feel my best there, but at the moment, I just love being outside in the landscape, and I guess
something of the energy of that feeling of your internal energy matching the external energy that you're trying to get on the painting.
Yeah, definitely. Not always, but yeah, that's kind of one of the advantages of being there, because you can, well, obviously, I mean, the place just will. My theory is, if I make anything in the landscape, then I call it a landscape, because I'm there. It's influence. It's going to be subconsciously influencing the work. So I guess I mean, abstract. When I look at an abstract painting now, a newer one, which is not as literal, I guess, as work 10 years ago. I just see a landscape still, because the brush marks are emulating the movement of the sea, and then the light is changing with the colours are changing with the light, and it's all it all seems to be relevant for me. Just the energy that you can get from painting on the coast, you can get that in the brush marks, and it's all works together very well.
So how do you actually start a painting? So let's take you back to the beginning of a 2-week phase, let's call it, and you've gone out to your a place that you really like. What do you actually do? You've got paper in front of you and a little paint set of acrylics or oils or watercolors.
I've spent quite a long time collecting various, like, my kit of different marks, basically. So I'll have a backpack full of spray paints, pastels, any kind of water-based thing I can find, like scrapey things, stuff that I can spray to make a sharp edge. Recently I've been cutting shapes out of perspex, so I can spray through that. And then, but a lot of pencil. The drawing element is always been quite important. So, but yeah, I have this this way of stretching the canvas onto a piece of rigid hardboard, or plywood, and then I paint on the floor. It just makes it a lot more sturdy than an easel. And if I'm painting on paper, then I've found the only way really is to take out a sort of plastic box and paint in that, basically. So it's quite good because then you can get the lid on when it starts raining.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can sort of, yeah, and it's sort of in this box. So I do that, but mainly it's cant. And I went for a period a few years ago where I did an interview, and this it looked like I'd got a bit of paint on the rocks in the photograph, and I got contacted by the Marine Conservation Society, and then I had to assure them that I cleaned up and I wasn't going to do that again. So I think really carefully now about not getting paint anywhere, and which I think is the right thing to do. And I'd see paint on rocks from other art that must have been from other artists, and I always think, wow. But so I put this canvas on. Like, I've got this sort of, I found this sort of corrugated plastic, which is quite a good support. So I put that on top of my painting, on top of that, so that if I get splatters around, I've tried to.
Though, isn't it, that if you become as famous as Monet one day, everybody will be out looking for those little marks.
Yeah. I know. It was annoying because I did actually. It was only. Yeah, I mean, I think if you get it on grass, it's not as bad because grass regenerates, doesn't it? But
yes.
And I always try and wipe it off because I don't like the idea that you can see where someone's been. But yeah, on a rock it's a bit different because it's harder to get off. And they were concerned about sort of the picture looked like I was way more a lot closer to the sea than I actually was. So they were concerned about the lichen. But yeah, you live and learn.
Well, the hazards of plein air painting. I mean, it's difficult to control everything, isn't it? When you're on the north, on the Cornish coast.
Yeah, it's so windy. And
it's exactly. I mean, your idea about I mean, I haven't tried a lot of plein air painting, mainly because I do like a constant supply of tea, and that's difficult to produce in plein air for a start. But then I paint in acrylic, so you've got, well, what do I do with all my tissues? And it's quite an effort.
There is a logistical thing, and when I go over to the Scillies, it's really difficult because I've only got a week to produce the work, and that's kind of a whole new difficulty, trying to the pressure of getting it all done. But I quite like that. I like the focus it gives me. It means that I can make decisions sort of quickly because I have to. So there's a sort of discipline in plein air painting. You've only got until the sun sets, basically, and then you can return the next day. But then you've got a whole different weather, and the painting. I found that when I've worked on something again, I do sometimes still do it if it's just the paint's just not working, and I like to test the mold a bit and shake it up a bit. So I try new things, but the majority of my work is just made in a day, and there's only for me there's only so many hours you can make a piece for in a certain way I make work.
Yeah.
Before it gets a bit.
You can't make a loose, translucent, kind of flowing piece of work over like 3 months, I don't think, can you? Because you're going to lose that.
I don't think if you could, I guess you can, but there's no point to it. That's not the concept of the work. The work is about almost like a meditative thing. Like you're focusing your mind for that one moment to sort of just go for it, and to have that discipline and that confidence. You have to commit, and you instead of going, I could do that, I could do that. You just go, well, I've got to choose that or that. Okay, I'll choose that, and then you just make those decisions very quickly, and it's hard to do. Like at moments I get lost and I'm just like, I don't know whether it's good anymore. But you
The
just got,
artist's lot, isn't it?
what's that?
That's the artist's lot, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I saw something on Instagram like a few years ago where like the artist process is basically, I love it, I hate it, I think I like it, I hate it. Actually, no, I'm rubbish. I'm terrible. I'm the worst artist. Actually, I love it. Fear is a really good word, actually, because a lot of the time that is it. Like I was thinking the other day, like you can convince yourself that you like something out of fear that you don't want to lose what you've already done.
You've invested a lot in that,
yeah, and I you can justify anything, so you can make yourself believe that you like it when you don't, out of fear of losing all of this work we've put into it. But I think that's what I find really exciting is when you get a painting that place where you're like, I know what it needs, but I've got to get rid of that amazing little bit there. But you have to do it because otherwise it's just not going to work. But
it takes so much courage to do that, doesn't it? And I have to say, I've had loads of times where I've just wimped out of that. And then they sit there, don't they, paintings like that, and they always annoy you, I think.
And it annoys. I can't sleep. I can't sleep about it. I'm sort of thinking about it all the time when I'm doing bath time or something. Like I can't, relax. So I also phone up my wife sometimes and I say, should I leave it? And she always says yes, because she knows that like I go through this period where I've got something, and I want to listen to myself when you sort of stand back and go look at it, go, oh, and you stop for some reason and you go, oh wow, yeah, that's cool. But then the perfectionist of the artist drives you on, and then you wreck it. But I've taken a picture of it, and then I look back at the picture and I'm like,
yeah, I know. Lots of artists I've spoken to say you have to be willing to sacrifice anything on the painting and just keep going. But I know that sometimes I've done that and I've ended up with something better, and sometimes I've done that and thought, it was just you should have left it. So it's, where is that judgment?
I think you just got to say it's all feeding the beast. It's all part of the same thing. Like you win some, you lose some. You just gotta go with your gut again, I guess. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
So how many do you work on when you're working outside? Do you have like 3 or 4 that you're working on, or do you always work on one, put it away, work on another?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I work on 3 or 4 if they're little. Sometimes I like working on 2 because you can get one that's almost like when you're making a print, like like an etching or something, you get like a ghost print. If you do a second one, and like with the same with 2 paintings, you can work really intensely on one and then just do a really free bit on the other. So they sort of work together, but if that one's not working, then I have a second one that's a backup that's actually really good.
It's always good to have a backup.
Yeah, but then equally, I like just focusing on one and saying to yourself and disciplining yourself to focus just on one at times as well, because you're testing yourself, I guess, with one.
I always think your paintings have quite a distinctive look to them. Did that happen straight away for you after art school, when you came away from sculpting and came back, or did it take, in your view, did it happen straight away, or did it take a while to start finding your focus and your voice and your individual style?
I think it's always just happened quite organically. I remember just because I started off painting in the barn, and they were influenced by my architectural stuff and my degree, and then they were quite abstract. But I remember just thinking, well, they were very abstract. But I remember then I went outside, and I'd always carried a sketchbook, and I just remember thinking, there's more in these sketchbooks than in the studio, and then I just thought, why don't I just transfer the sketchbooks, just cut out the process of, if all the excitement and energy is in the sketchbook, then I should be painting the paintings as the sketchbook. So I just went outside, and it's just a process of just experimenting and messing around. And I think if you just do lots and lots of work over a long period, over a couple of years, like just churning it out right at the start when you're trying to find yourself, it just, your work, just yourself comes through. It just naturally comes through. If you experiment, you like that and you don't like that, and you just merge it together. To the accident, sometimes the accidents become the thing you like the most, and it just organically happens. I did really like Kurt Jackson, and my mum did, and I like the fact that he was so confident about saying this is art, as well as the conceptual art that was more relevant at the time. So I thought that was quite empowering. So I kind of was inspired by that, and I thought, well, yeah, I've got all of this amazing landscape, like all I need to do is paint that. But then it became more about how I felt in the place, and I wanted to express that through color. I had this like compulsion to make these weird colors, like put all of these crazy colors that weren't there in it, and I had loads of people questioning why I did that, and I didn't really even know, but I sort of justified it by saying that it's how I feel, and if I feel, and then over the years I've kind of it's more about, I've realized that it's more about I don't really want to know. I don't care as much. It's more about making a painting that I think is a good painting, and being in the space. If that influences it, great. And then, but if it does, if I want to make a mark, why sort of stifle that? Like, your brain kicks in, and when and tells you that you shouldn't do something, which is weird. Like, when you're a kid, like, you don't have that kind of that brain saying you can't do that, and it's all free, and you're just making these things, and in the moment, I think you should just listen to what your heart and your hands are telling you to do, and then when you get back in an exhibition, you can, or in the studio, you can get back and look at it and reflect as to why you might have done something. I like the idea of just making and listening to that, whatever it is that's making me do it.
That's quite an intuitive way of working then, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's weird because I sort of used to say my work was instinctive, and in a way that's doing it a disservice. I use this. I wrote this essay which I use at my exhibitions a lot, and it was an exhibition that I had at the Penwith Gallery a couple of years ago. I called it Considered Intuition. So it kind of, which doesn't really make sense, but it's kind of the best way I can describe it, because it's kind of, there's a combination of that intuitive way of working, but then there's moments where your brain, your ideas of what you want the painting to be kicks in. It's not just, it's not like I haven't thought about. I've learned about art, and I've been through. I've looked at many different artists, and I've experimented with lots of different art forms, and so there is a knowledge of art that I have when I'm making it.
And you said that your work you thought was going more abstract. Can you see it going more and more abstract? And why?
I think so, yeah. I mean, before I used to look at abstract work, and when it's very pure abstract work. I couldn't engage with it because I didn't know the context of where it is. But because my work now is always in the context of landscape, I feel like really like I've figured it out. What I'm finding with this recent work, this collage work, is like you move something literally just a few millimeters and it really does change. Like it's like you're focusing on this small thing. Well, it's about composition quite a lot. It's all about how little miniature things, and I guess every painting's about that. But I guess with more minimal work, the space in between the objects, or between the colours and shapes, are kind of is obviously just as important, and that is good fun. Like it's good fun.
It is good fun, collage, isn't it? As well, yeah.
Yeah, it's just good fun, and that's essentially what I want my work to be, just fun.
Yeah. Do you ever have any artistic blocks, I suppose, or just like periods where you've come into a bit of a slump? And if so, how do you get past it?
Yeah, of course, definitely. I don't know how to get past it. My wife tells me to get on with it. You just got to say, well, I'll just start with something little, and then usually even if I just put one mark on a bit of paper, then I'm like, oh yeah, no, I love it. It's just weird. It's just that mental block, isn't it, of just sort of doing it.
So I usually end with some what I call shorts. Are you ready?
Yep.
Yep. So what's your favourite colour?
It's really hard. I guess burgundy.
Burgundy?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not your favourite drink. Yeah. Okay.
No, yeah. It's always been burgundy from an early age. I sort of like weird colours like violets or.
Yeah. What about when you? What's your favourite tube of paint? You know that when you see it.
I mean, I like pink.
Pink.
Yeah.
Magenta or.
Pink is electric. Electric pink is what I want.
Pink.
Or dangerous pink, maybe.
Excellent. Okay, so line, colour or design? Colour.
Space and colour.
So is the sense of space achieved by colour?
Yeah, it can be, yeah. Yeah. I guess space can be interpreted in many different ways. If you're on the edge of a cliff, then that might make you feel a little bit excited or scared. So you can express that in the colours that you use. You might want to use some dark greens against some crazy reds.
Okay, what's your favourite medium to work in?
Acrylic paint.
So do you always work in acrylic?
Yeah, because I like it's the way it dries quickly. So I like the fact that the wind and sun can dry it, and then I can put stuff on the top, and I can also rub it back a bit and sometimes it does weird things where it reveals hidden colour underneath. There's something simple about a pencil that is just, you know, if I had to choose anything on a desert island, it'd probably be a pencil, because, you know, something that you can make a mark with. I use these sort of, I can't remember what, polychromos or something. Like they're like, I think they're like a waxy oil-based pencil, and they just have loads of lovely little loads of different colours, and they're not they resist water, so you can make really, and because I paint with the canvas stapled onto a board, I can make really nice sharp marks with them. And I think that's become my motif a little bit within my work, is this outline of land or something with a pencil. So that kind of, I'd feel a bit lost without those pencils, those colour pencils, yeah.
So that's your mustn't leave home without.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd be lost without those. It's hard. Like the spray paint has become a real thing, part of my work. I started using it maybe 5 years ago or something, and now I use it a lot less, in a much more subtle way. But it's still a way. There's this way of using it where I just apply it over wet paint, and then almost scrape it back, and you can get the paint underneath, so you can get instant colour coming through the spray paint on top. And that's something that I really like at the moment
Mm.
as well. It's hard to choose.
Okay, canvas or panel or paper?
I like canvas because I just like the fabric, the way it feels. But probably would choose board because you can just make very sharp marks. Really, you can get clarity within the marks that you're making, yet you can still apply paint in the same way as you would canvas.
Quick or slow?
Quick, definitely quick.
Sketchbook and planning or develop as it goes?
Develop as it goes. That's what my work is about.
How do you feel when you know something you've put on the canvas or panel is what you really wanted to convey?
I guess it's a bit of a cop-out to say you just know, but it really is that. I know myself enough and have experimented enough over I don't know my whole life of working in art with art to just know what I want. You get something that sort of just makes you stop. You kind of want to recreate it in the next painting, but then you can never do that. You can't, like you say, you can't recreate it because it's that very excitement that is what it's all about. If you recreated it, it just wouldn't give you the same feeling.
What is the best thing about being an artist?
I guess it's having a job that you love.
If you weren't an artist, what would you be? And you can't be a sculptor.
I think I would be an actor, which
Yeah.
sounds sort of a bit crazy, but because it's ridiculously hard to be an actor. But my parents did it, and I was always into it. I did theatre studies, and I love the way you can tell a story through film. I think I would have the determination to try and keep doing it, even if it was just small productions in Cornwall.
What do you hope the viewer will see or feel when they look at your work?
I don't really care.
Right, it's not about the viewer at all.
I just hope that they feel what I feel. If they sort of keep looking, then hopefully they'll get a sense of atmosphere and space, and keeps their focus to just want to keep looking and trying to understand why they are enjoying it. When I was in an exhibition, like you say, I do paint for myself. Like someone said, an old elderly woman said to me, "Do you paint for yourself?" And I was just like baffled, because I thought, well, obviously, yeah. But so I said, yeah, because that was the truth. And then she said, "Well, that's a bit selfish, isn't it?" And I said, "It's like, what does that even mean? Like, who am I painting for? Like the Queen?" I just figure I'm a human being. I like these things. I'm fairly normal. If you know, if anyone is ever normal, there's going to be people like me, and if I just stay true to myself, that people will be able to connect with it. So I just trust in that.
That seems like a good point to end.
The physicality of making stuff with paint is just so joyous. It's just so lovely.